TNT Sports. This is Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Grizz Insider right here on the Montana Television Network. Alongside the voice of the Grizz, Riley Corcoran, I'm Kyle Hansen, and Riley, dominant game for the Grizzlies coming off the open date as they beat Northern Colorado 40-0. Just your initial thoughts.
It was a complete effort, Kyle, across the board, and really the Grizz have struggled off of their bye week in the last couple of years. Maybe showed some rust in the first quarter. We all know the restless fans inside Washington Grizzly Stadium, but they certainly they picked it up, and it really started with the defense. It ended with the defense to pitch a shutout, to have 2 touchdowns on defense, and to hold your opponent under 100 total yards. I mean, that's just something that will go down historically in the record books, and the defense certainly deserves the credit.
And when you watch the defensive game, it felt like they were dominating all game, like you mentioned, the touchdowns, but then you look at the stat sheet. 94 total yards allowed, 1 for 15 for Northern Colorado on third down, 7 first downs, 3 of which came on penalties. I mean, just overall, start to finish, that defense, Governor sack on the first defensive play in a way they win.
I'm glad you mentioned that because it started right there. And you look at the matchups, you break down personnel like we do getting ready for a game each Saturday, and you identify maybe a personnel matchup that you think that one side can dominate the other. And it was. It was the Grizz front against a very young Northern Colorado offensive line.
Yeah.
First play, you've got fifth-year senior Alex Governor dominating a true freshman, and it was all over from there. But the pressure, the relentless pressure, is what continues to stand out to me, Kyle. I mean, 9 sacks through the first 6 games of the year, and now 6 sacks in each of the last 2 games for the Grizzly defense. So they've at least figured it out in that regard. The secondary obviously played their part, not allowing many pass yards in the contest. So it was just great to see, but I think it started with the pressure up front.
And back-to-back games like this, right, where the Idaho game they had 6 sacks. They did it again against Northern Colorado with 6 sacks. Riley Wilson with 3 of those. Just overall from start to finish, feels like the defense is kind of meshing a little bit, where maybe there were some hiccups earlier in the season, but now they're kind of meshing and kind of going back to what they did really a year ago, too.
I think so, too. When you talk about roles being defined, at this point in the season, you have that. And there's a lot of feeling out process maybe in the month of September. The defense is locked in now because I think they were experimenting a lot with some new coverages, let's just say defensively, and then maybe the pressure was lacking. Well, now they've got the right balance. They've got the pressure dialed in with some good things in the back end on the secondary that could come into play here in November.
And the other big storyline of the game was on the offensive side, and it's exciting to say that there's an Ayat throwing touchdowns for the Montana Grizzlies again, right?
Boy, what
a game.
It was just incredible. 27 years after Brian Ayat throws his first touchdown pass for the Grizzlies, it was Keali'i that did it, and just an immediate spark. And everyone that had been around practice knew that Keali'i Ayat had risen up to the number 2 spot in the depth chart. But when was he going to get in the game? And, you know, was it going to be against Idaho in a top 10 game? Maybe not. But this was a perfect opportunity for him. And Kyle, he seems very poised to me.
Yes.
That the moment was not too big. It was just a surreal moment. I think there were a lot of people there that grew up watching the Grizz or just have been following the Grizz for a long time that you make the connection from Ayat to Ayat there. That was pretty special.
You know, he looked good. He had a couple of incomplete passes. I remember watching him being like, that was a good ball. I mean, he throws a good ball for a true freshman. He does not play like one.
No, absolutely not. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, too, with Brian Ayat being the Hall of Famer, too, and just connecting everything together with Keali'i. And I think that he seemed very composed within the offense, right? And there was an illegal man downfield penalty that would have gotten them in the red zone again. So the numbers could have been even a little better, Kyle, and he's the real package. He's the full package to where he can run, too, and utilize his legs.
Absolutely. And it was a big week in Grizz athletics. You got to MC the Grizzly Hall of Fame awards banquet. Just walk us through what that was like, because you got to recognize some legends, and it was a special night at the Adams Center.
It really was, Kyle. Just an absolute thrill for me to be able to do that. And we mentioned it on stage, but everybody knows the accomplishments of the 4 that got honored, but the how they all got there. And from Betsy Dirksen starting off the Grizzly soccer program to having so much success, to Dean Earhart, 3-time All-American, and great to welcome him back after 50 years since he was a freshman. And then Mark Mariani. Man, did he steal the show. It was great. You had a great sideline interview with him during that game, but so much personality, best wide receiver in school history. And then Gene McNulty King. It was a really cool class, a fun honor for me, and a great night. Over 300 packed out again in the Adams Center.
It was a great event. Well done. And we have a great show coming your way, because coming up next, Riley's going to catch up with Coach Houck to talk about his latest wins over Northern Colorado.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back to the Grizz Insider. Montana dominates Northern Colorado. They return home. They shut them out. They win 40-0, joined by head coach Bobby Houck. And Coach, I'm sure that performance, a complete dominant effort, put a smile to your face after returning home for the first time in a month.
Well, it did, Riley. I mean, we got off to a little bit of a slow start, but played really well throughout the game, dominated the game. There was really not in doubt after halftime, and so I was excited with our team's performance.
Well, we had a little bit of fun in the post-game radio interview just talking about the flow, or maybe lack of flow, in that game. So how did you guys, let's just say, weather the storm for the first quarter and a half, and then clearly put the throttle down in half two?
We had some good things going on, but we could never get into that flow you're talking about. It wasn't smooth early in the game. We didn't get off to a great start. Kind of kicked it around a little bit, frankly. We moved the ball, but it's not a yardage contest, as you and I like to talk about. But then we got going, started putting points up on the board. They came in bunches, and they couldn't handle our defense, so it was really kind of pretty comfortable over there.
Yeah, I would say that's an understatement. You do have 4 offensive touchdowns, but let's talk about the 2 defensive touchdowns. I mean, just an unbelievable effort, Coach, to have all 3, and we're still going back through the archives. I'm pretty sure it's a school record, first time ever. 2 pick sixes, holding your opponent under 100 yards, and the shutout. I guess of those 3, what one stands out maybe the most to you?
It's a good question. It's kind of fun to talk about when you have a performance like that. Pick sixes are good, but in modern college football, to shut a team out and hold a team under 100 yards total offense is unheard of. It just doesn't happen. They kind of go hand in hand a little bit, but holding a team under 100 yards in this day and age just really is not common.
Northern Colorado had just 7 first downs in the game. They were 1 for 15 on third down. What would you attribute the relentlessness of your defense to, at least in that game? The pressure obviously came early and often and constant to their 2 or 3 quarterbacks that were in there. What would you attribute just the relentless pursuit for your team on Saturday?
Well, we tackle really well. We're a great tackling football team, and our guys get guys down in space and make them earn every yard. I think that is number 1. Number 2 is they play extremely hard. They play their tail off. And then, we're winning. We're getting off blocks at the first level, the second level, and the third level. That just lends itself to good defense.
Well, it's tough to do this, to try and highlight an individual when there were so many great individual performances. Kyle Hansen will talk with Jaxon Lee, who had his first career pick 6. That was great. Braxton Hill having a pick 6 as well. But I want to talk about Riley Wilson. I mean, you've got him back in full force. He has 3 sacks in the game. That hasn't been done in quite a while here for the Grizz. So just him, and maybe a collective question on your linebacking core, because they have just worked so well together, Coach, that no matter which one of the 5 main ones that have been out there, they've just been great, and Riley had a big game.
You're right on point. Those guys are all playing very well. The guys up front in that front group are doing a good job. The pursuit from the secondary is relentless. Riley had a big statistic game. I think he had 4 tackles for a loss as well as the 3 sacks. The interceptions for touchdowns are huge. Guys are playing at a high level. It's fun to watch.
They really are. Let's go to the offensive side, and there was a lot to like, too. We talked about it with 4 touchdown drives, and you're able to mix and match a lot of balance. Before we get to the quarterback play, I want to talk about the rushing attack. To have 3 different ball carriers have nearly 80 yards or more. Eli Gilman, of course, another 100-yard game. You have to love that, because that's symmetry with your O-line and everybody when you're putting up nearly 300 yards rushing.
Well, the balance we're striving for, because we can throw it and throw it fairly effectively. So when we rush for 300 yards or nearly 300 yards, we're going to be really hard to beat. The guys are enthused about the run game. We've got some dynamic playmaking ability in the pass game. So things are coming together there, and I still don't think we've played our best football yet.
Well, that's a good sign for Grizzly fans as we head into the month of November. And then I want to talk about your quarterback play. It was great to see you told us post-game that Kayali Ayad, he'd risen up in the depth chart through the last couple of weeks at practice. We saw him. We saw Clifton McDowell. What would you say just best about your quarterback play collectively and Kayali Ayad's first career touchdown pass?
Well, it was great to see our freshman get in there and get some playing time. We probably expected to play him for 3 or 4 weeks and just haven't really been able to get him going. Had decided that we were going to do that, whatever the scenario was, this past Saturday, and he came in and had a very solid performance. I thought Cliff did as well, did some really good things. The 2 of them are different from one another. We've had a plan to play 2 quarterbacks all season long, and it looks like we'll probably be doing that moving forward.
Well, great signs to see. The Grizz are 7-1, and Kyle Hansen will talk with Jaxon Lee next on the Grizzly Insider.
Get social with Grizzly fans and follow MTN Sports on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back to the Grizz Insider, and I'm excited to be joined by junior safety Jaxon Lee. Jaxon, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. Big game for you and the team against Northern Colorado this past weekend. Just let's start with your pick 6. I mean, what a play. The ball's thrown right to you, and you get the first score of the game. Just walk us through that play and what that was like at Washington Grizzly Stadium.
To be honest, I don't really remember. It was kind of like a blackout moment. It was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, that was such a big play, something I've been waiting for quite a while, and I mean, the boys took care of business and got the blocks and really helped me out. It was awesome.
Right. You guys on defense were really on point to start this game, really from the get-go. Governor gets the sack on the very first play, and you guys are kind of rolling from there. But to get that score, to kind of get the full unit going, just how big was that in your eyes?
I think someone was bound to make a play. I mean, Braxton ended up making one later on. Yeah, it was just a team effort. Everyone around the board was getting home, and it was a big deal. And, I mean, it's going to lead to turnovers, which can lead to scores, so I think that was cool.
Right. You know, obviously you in high school scored a lot of touchdowns, but finally getting that college touchdown again, that just had to be a fun moment to get celebrated by the crowd and fans, and just, like you said, you kind of blacked out. I probably would too, but, you know, just that had to be kind of cool to get back in the end zone.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking about that when I was taking a shower this morning, actually. I was like, wow, it's been like 5 years since you've done something like that. That feels pretty good.
That's awesome. Yeah. And credit to you. It was a great play. And
Thank
just
you.
speak to what the defense did as a whole yesterday. You guys had allowed 94 yards, forced them to 1 for 15 on third down, the 2 pick sixes, 6 sacks, just as an entire unit. What was it like being a part of such a big day for you guys?
This is a big day for the defense. That's not something that happens often, and it's something that we work hard to do, so it's pretty cool. It's going to be a nice meeting on Monday to go over the defensive goals and the goals we hit. So.
And then watching your guys' offense work as well, you got Kay Ali'i getting in there, getting his first career touchdown pass, Cliff and Sawyer connect as well, and Eli, another big game. Just what was it like just watching what they were doing, and you know, you guys were doing your job, and then they were rewarding you guys with points?
I mean, that's just how it should be, and it feels really good when that's the way it is. I mean, some days if the defense isn't performing, hopefully the offense does, and I mean, if it's vice versa, it's cool, but when everyone's firing, it's a lot of fun, especially in that atmosphere.
Right. So you guys 7-1 now, just a big picture as a whole. You come off the bye, get the win, 4th straight victory. Just talk about how things are going overall in the program right now as you guys roll to a 7-1 record.
I mean, yeah, things are looking up, obviously. I mean, we're doing really good, but we can't let our heads get big. We got to keep doing what we're doing, and 1 week at a time, obviously. I mean, to be where we want to be, we have to win this week first. So.
Right. So let's pivot to you, Jaxon. Now, you've played a lot of special teams the last couple of years. You've been primarily Robbie Houck's backup, and we all know what he did in his Montana Grizzly career. But now you're starting to see rotation time and making some big plays, interceptions in the last 2 games. Just what's it been like for you kind of cracking that defensive rotation this year after all the work you've put in the last couple of years?
I mean, yeah, being Robbie's backup was really fun, actually. It was really beneficial to me. He's taught me a lot, and he helped me a lot. So, I mean, someone to look up to. And, I mean, I'm not going to make nearly as many tackles as he did, but it'd be awesome to be like Robbie someday. So
you have a goal, right? At least you have a number you can look at.
Yeah, looking up to 17, that was cool. He was awesome for the Grizz. So.
Well, and ultimately, too, just speak to, like, the last couple of years, like waiting your turn, biding your time, getting prepared and ready. Just what was that process like from you and, you know, just making sure you're ready to go this season once your number was called?
I've been waiting for quite a while, but, like, I came in kind of like expecting that. Like, it's not very often that a freshman will come in and play right off the rip. So, I mean, you came in with knowing that you'd get delayed gratification at some point. So, I mean, it was good. I mean, the offseason work's fun. I like it a lot. So it's just playing football. Working out with the friends, and I love it.
Just doing your thing, right? Yeah. Your career, obviously, Jaxon, you played 8-man football in high school up until your senior year when you ultimately attended Missoula Sentinel High School. So what was it like transitioning to the college game? Was it difficult because you'd seen 8-man, but then some 11-man football? I guess what was it like, you know, kind of from your path?
Oh, yeah. Playing 8-man football, I played defense, but when I got to Sentinel, I really didn't play much defense. In 8-man, we have cover 2 and man coverage, and that's it. So, I mean, when we started doing crazy calls and reads, I had no idea what was going on. I was spinning, so, I mean, starting to click finally, but at the time I was so lost.
Right. Well, and you're starting to make plays as well, like we mentioned, back-to-back weeks with interceptions. Just what's it like to kind of come up big for your teammates in those moments? Because that one against Idaho was big. Riley got the bat and you picked it off. It just seems like you're kind of making some big plays that are really impacting the game now, too.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, I feel good. That's something you grow up as a Grizz fan wanting to do at some point, so that's really cool. Like you said, Riley batted that ball. I mean, it's a team effort all across the board. It's really cool.
Good luck this weekend, Jaxon. Congratulations on the season you're having so far, and thanks for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. And Riley Corcoran will rejoin me coming up to preview that game against Sacramento State.
Take coverage of the Grizz with you. Download our app for your favorite mobile device today. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Well, we turn the calendar to the month of November here on the Grizz Insider, and the Grizz have a massive contest coming up this week against Sacramento State. We got Coach Houck's thoughts on the top 10 battle.
Well, when you're in the focal point game for the FCS 3 times in 4 weeks, obviously you're playing a pretty difficult schedule, and this will be another top 10 battle. We're excited to to have Sac up here this weekend, it'll be a big game in the Big Sky in FCS football.
Well, Kyle, they say the games you remember are the ones played in November, and Montana has set themselves up for what a run here. These 3 games, 7-1, first time since 2009. Just your overall take before we dive into Sacramento State, just about the spot Montana's in, ranked in the top 5 with everything in front of them.
Just how about turning things around, right? Because it all is going to go back to that NAU game back in September, the first game of the conference season when they lost to the Lumberjacks, and it was starting to look not so good. They were coming off the close win over Fair State, which, as we talked about, it was a great football team. But they're going to that, then it was a close win over Idaho State. People are starting to wonder. But then they conquered the difficult stretch, the first difficult stretch of UC Davis and Idaho. And so by being that and being at 7-1 right now, I don't think a lot of fans thought they would be at this point right now, and they've proved them wrong. And, they keep climbing those polls, and it's making things interesting, especially both in that playoff picture and in these final 3 weeks.
No question. We've got a top 10 battle here. To see the improvement from week to week has just been something that has been staggering, and it's been fun to watch this team maybe compared to the teams of the past, the last couple of seasons. Let's dive into Sacramento State. They come in, obviously, top 10 in the country, 6-2. I mean, just part of the Big Sky gauntlet at the top. But just your initial thoughts on the Hornets, the team that's had a lot of success in the Big Sky the last couple seasons.
And they're picking up where they left off, because the big thing is Andy Thompson is the new head coach, Montana graduate, played for the Grizzlies, but taking over for Troy Taylor, who just saw unbelievable success over the last 3 years leading the Hornets program, basically turning them around completely and turning them into a 3-time Big Sky champion. And so the Hornets have picked up where they left off. They lost tough games to Idaho and Montana State. As we've kind of talked throughout the last few weeks, there's this top 4 echelon of the top teams in the conference, and Sac State's now going to see Montana, and this is going to be the one they're going to want to win, both for Andy Thompson, but also after losing those other 2.
No doubt. And we talk about what they've done in Big Sky play, but really what got them on the map, and you mentioned Troy Taylor, he goes to Stanford, and Sacramento State goes and gives a little revenge to their former coach in Troy Taylor. That really put the Hornets on the map early, I think, Kyle, when a lot of us were wondering, okay, with this changing of the guard, can they stay up to their standard? And that game against Stanford caught all of our attention.
It did, yeah, and it showed that they're for real again, right?
Yeah.
They weren't really going to skip a beat, because the question coming in was, what are they going to do with Troy Taylor now gone? And full circle moment of beating him just kind of summed it all up.
Yeah.
And, they have a lot of players coming back. One of the things Andy Thompson noted back in Spokane was, I believe, they had 78 guys back on their team who had 3 years or more in the program. So not a lot of guys left. They did lose a couple of guys to transfer, as you're expected to when your coach leaves. But they brought a lot of guys back in, key positions. Offensive line, tight end, receiver, and linebacker. They have a lot of these guys at key positions, and, they're starting to see some of these young guys come alive, too.
It'll be interesting to see. Last week against Idaho State, they dominate the Bengals, win by 35. They played 3 quarterbacks in that game. Caden Bennett had been their top rusher as a quarterback, so we'll see the quarterback battle, what comes out. It might be a little bit of everything for us getting ready for the contest. Your thoughts on just the night game, the atmosphere that we're going to have? I mean, special things happen inside Washington Grizzly Stadium when they flip those lights on, and we've got another great battle under the lights this week.
I agree. It's some of my favorite games to cover. Yeah. It's in November this time last year, the night game against Cal Poly, we got snow. Forecast is looking a little dicey next Saturday. Maybe we'll get it again. Wouldn't be opposed. Would be very fun, but you can't beat that atmosphere. It feels like the playoffs when we get to this time of the year, and the night games definitely have that.
Well, this is what it's all about right now, a top 10 battle with national implications on the line. We'll wrap up the show next here on the Grizz Insider.
There's more coverage of the Grizzlies online anytime at montanasports.com. Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
And welcome back to the Grizz Insider. And Riley, last week the FCS committee released their rankings and had the Grizz at 6. 4 Big Sky teams in the top 8. These final 3 weeks, now that November's here, are going to be pretty unbelievable in the Big Sky.
It's going to be great for all of us, right? To follow this is people that cover the sport, fans out there. This is what you live for. Now Grizz football, Cap football, whatever it might be in this state, it revolves 12 months of the year. And for all of this to come down in November, heightened importance on all of it. It's going to be awesome. Big Sky Conference race, 3 teams now with 1 loss, with the Cats, Idaho, and now Montana. Then not only that, but just the national picture. We know those coveted home games are so important in December. If you really want to make a run to go to Frisco, top 2 seed, top 4 seed, getting that extra home game, and of course, the first round bye. So every game has heightened importance, Kyle, and we can't wait.
November's here. The best time of the year is approaching. And thank you all so much for joining us on this week's edition of the Grizz Insider. And we'll see you next week right here on MTN.